Okay, guys, I'm here with Tyler Viars, a MasterChef finalist, and I met Tyler 7, 8 years ago or so.
2010. Yeah.
2010. Okay. So you contacted me as a potential client initially, and I knew you were just finishing school, getting a degree in exercise science. We at the time were looking for somebody on our training staff to kind of manage things, come on board as a potential training director. So you moved to Evansville,
Right.
Evansville, Indiana, and it was one of those things where it was awesome to meet you and to see what you could do. And then at the same time, our business was kind of going in a few different directions, and you decided that you wanted to do some things. So after about a year and a half,
Yeah, about a year and a half.
okay, you left us, took off, just destroyed my life.
Traumatizing a bit.
But it's kind of like that good to great concept, where even ever since then I thought, man, if there's one person I could ever work with again, it would be Tyler. And so I'll get to that in a few minutes. That's why Tyler is here. But the reason I wanted to interview you is because you had this goal. You loved cooking. You always have. Baking, cooking, just food. You just love to see people happy with food. Tell me about where that came from.
Well, kind of on repeat now, but my first experience cooking was when I was young. My job, short little fat kid. My nickname was Tank because of the short little fat kid. But my first job was to, as a kid, step up on a kitchen chair and snip the chocolate chip cookie bag, or the chocolate chip cookie chips. Snip the chips and pour the chips into the batter while my mom was making the batter. And she has this old wooden spoon, still to this day has it, and she used to stir the batter by hand. There was no mixer. Stir by hand, and in turn, raw egg alert, but she would give me some cookie dough, and short little fat Tyler could eat cookie dough while the cookies were being made. So I quickly quickly found out, well, hey man, if you're in the kitchen, you actually get to eat the food before other people do. So, anyway, cookies baked, and from then I got to serve them to my at the time my brother was just really little, but got to serve them to my dad and watch my dad smile. So I found out that food was comforting and it made people happy. And it's a gene that I get from my mom. I'm a people pleaser, so that's I think that's why I like cooking, why I like fitness. That's because I get to help people get better.
And one of the things I know about you, you're incredibly ambitious. So you're not somebody who's afraid to swing for the fence and go for your goals.
Right.
So it was unbelievably cool to get a phone call from you saying, hey Joe, I can't tell you about this, but I'm going to be on MasterChef, and you wanted to talk about how to strategize this. Like, what do we do? What do we talk about? And I don't know if it's because I'm just a friend, but it's kind of a branding guy and a writer. Like, how do I fill this thing, this like persona? Like, you need to be a character, even though it's reality TV. You need to stand out.
Right.
So you and I talked about that, and my advice was, of course, be you, be what you can be naturally, and stick to it. And so you decided to do what?
Well, my background's well versed in the fact of the bodybuilding, the nutrition, but I also videoed hunting and worked for a company called Realtree Camouflage Pattern. I worked for them videoing, which is part of the reason I left in the first place with the diet doc. So I quickly knew that we weren't allowed to wear brands. I couldn't wear Nike, I couldn't wear Reebok, I couldn't wear any brands, but I knew the pattern, the Realtree pattern, was recognizable to that community and to that group of people. And me having a background in hunting, I knew that was a way to attract followers. And I just there's a lot of big dots in the United States, but there are a lot more small ones. And if I could target the small town USA, which is where I'm from, a town of 10,000 people, I could build kind of the hoorah in the small town environment. Because there were contestants from LA, Chicago, Nashville, all these big cities, but no one from a town of 10,000 people. So I knew I could attack that audience. So on the show, I called the president of Realtree, Bill Jordan, and told him, and he sent me a bunch of blank shirts, just with the pattern. I knew the pattern, just like with anything else. If it's something you're interested in, you're going to recognize it. So while on the show, I wear every single day a Realtree camo shirt and jeans and boots, which is quite frankly, it's not anything different than what I would wear any other day. So I was just me. But I knew that would be recognizable. And while on the show, every night I would go back to the hotel and make ideas, write ideas. I didn't have a cell phone, couldn't call anybody. They were taken from us, but I would make ideas of how to attract that market. So, and I kind of came up with I kind of coined the phrase cooking and camo. And since then bought the LLC to that. And many of you know who follow me on Instagram, Twitter, whatever, I always hashtag cooking and camo when I'm making something. So that's kind of how it stuck.
And do you think, because you start out with, I don't know how many people who are trying out for these different seasons and so forth. But you made it to the top 10 and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it had a lot to do with being that specific as a brand?
I think, yeah, I don't know what the auditioning process is or the numbers now, but at the time we had over 50,000 applicants to MasterChef for season 5. So it's the largest class ever. And for those who don't know MasterChef, it's the largest cooking competition in the world. Over 200 countries get to see MasterChef. But yeah, I think my background is what got me. A, I'm a competitive bodybuilder. B, I'm a gun carrier. I mean, I carry a gun everywhere but the shower, and I could carry one there, so be careful. And then C, at the time I was filming hunting, and I was selling guns and ammo. I covered a 4-state territory at that time. And I'm from small town USA. So basically, I'm everything that LA does not like. So in this day and age, I mean, we're a liberal society. No one does what I do. So I had a story to tell, and I think that is bigger. Yeah, if you can cook like Wolfgang Puck, but you can't talk shit if you don't have a mouthful, then you're not gonna be on reality TV very long. Me, I had a story to tell, and B, I wasn't afraid of the camera.
And that's one of the things I told you. Like, I think out of 50,000 people, some people are going to be tremendously talented chefs, and they may not get past 49,900. Like, they're just not going to make it because there's so many good ones.
Right.
So in reality TV, I mean, I don't think too many people don't know this, but it's not always about the talent. It's about the story. There's got to be conflict. There's got to be tension. There's got to be this. What makes for a good TV show? So you creating that branded entity before you even step on was the advantage we talked about. But then, did you have any say? Like, they give you these ingredients and they give you these tasks. Were you always looking for that spin to be kind of that down-home hunter guy?
Well, yeah. Since then, and I've said it on television a couple times. I believe in, and it's as grotesque as it sounds, rooter to tutor. As a hunter or a forager or whatever you are, the animal, the plant, it dies.
I don't know what a rooter or a tutor is, and I'm not from LA.
Yeah. A rooter being the hiney, a tutor being the snout. So it covers the whole base, right?
I learned something.
Yep, there you go. I taught you something. Yeah. Wow, we'll keep that down. But anyway, so yeah, I believe growing up, my dad said, if you're willing to take its life, if you're willing to shoot it, you better be willing to eat it. And that's kind of the concept I came up with through the rooter and tutor. I'll utilize as much of the animal, the plant, whatever I'm fixing, I'll utilize as much as possible. So I always try to keep that in mind while I was cooking. The first dish I ever made for Chef Ramsay, I mean, I plated it on a wood cutting board. Not even a plate. And he asked if I even owned plates, asked if I even slept indoors. So I think he already knew where I was coming from. But yeah, I always try to keep that in the back of my mind. Not just from this is how I'm gonna be advantageous on TV, but because I still, despite how I looked on television, I knew I was representing A, my family, B, myself, and C, where I was from. So I always had to keep that in mind. Keep your brand, keep your image, and just be who you are. Because if you try to be somebody you're not, the camera will show that very, very quickly.
And that's the biggest reason I wanted to interview you today, was not just because of that talent and skill and the fact that we're here collaborating on something that might happen, but you went for a dream. You did something, and now you're spinning it as hard as you can into more opportunities and so forth, because you had a goal of not just being a cubicle guy or a salesman covering territory, but this is what I love to do. I can do it better than anybody, and I think the world is going to support it.
Right.
So tell me that, like, where does that come from? How do you go for that dream?
Well, it started really. I think we all, life has its way of working out. When I was a senior in high school, that's when it really kind of started. I remember our senior class. We graduated of a class, like, I think it was 248. I think it's the exact number. But we had this big giant map that was in our high school, and everybody had a pin. Everybody had a pin on the map of where they were going to college or what they were doing next. And Ohio was completely covered. I mean, just stacked. You couldn't fit another pin on there. And I just remember staring at that map. There's a couple people that were going to Air Force or going to military or moving away, but the majority were 200 pins on Ohio. And I was like, man, do I want to be just another pin on the map?
Nice.
So my best friend and I were like, I was signed, sealed, delivered to go to Ohio State, which I'm a big fan of Ohio State for those who know, or for those who don't know. But I was like, I want to get away. It's one chance to get away. So without even visiting the school, my best friend he did visit. He said, dude, Auburn's awesome. And I said, let's go. And I just took his word for it, and we moved to Auburn. And at that point in time, I've always had the vision of I want to be a storyteller. I don't want to all hearing a story is great and hearing about somebody's experience, and I embrace that and I love it and I want to hear from people, but I want to be the storyteller. And I've always believed the worst thing they can do is tell you no, and if they tell you no, then I'll find. You know, I've always said if they won't let me in the door, I'll kick down the wall. So it's just the way I think.
Awesome.
So
that's why you're here.
yep, glad to be here, man.
That's why you're here.
Yep.
All right.
So,
Thanks, guys.
yep.
Tyler Viars. We'll catch you another time.
Take care, guys.